we're going to talk about apostrophes. Apostrophes are missing, like periods, question marks, exclamation, punctuation, so markings that we put in the language to tell us something interesting about the sentence or that something is missing in the sentence. So in this particular case, we're talking about apostrophes. So there are a couple of things we use them for, but we're going to be talking about missing letter. Have you seen my letter? Letter G is pretty, boring. The letter is missing. So missing letters. So sometimes at the end of the present continuous verb, and verbs are do, stop, go, and very often we have the ing, doing, stopping, walking. So the letter G is dropped. But that's not in writing, that's in spoken English, and I want you to make sure you understand. So you may see that in songs, modern lyrics, modern literature, in the conversation when they're writing paragraphs. What are you doing, Johnny? But it's not supposed to be written in formal language. So if you are doing an essay or something formal, please don't use these forms. Understand them when you read them. And when someone's speaking and you understand why they're saying what are you doing rather than what are you doing, it's the same thing, just with different pronunciations. So the G is dropped. The meaning of the word, however, stays the same. I can say how are you doing or how are you doing. Same word, same meaning, different pronunciation. So we call colloquial usage. Here's some examples. Are you going to the party? Are you going to the party? Are you going to the party? Are you going? Are you going to the party? So the dropping of the G is shown. Sometimes you reading some novels. Who's going to help us? Who is? And you do not need to go, what is this new word in English I've never seen before? What is she saying? What is she saying? Instead of what is she saying? So our tongue drops to the bottom of the mouth rather than to the top. So saying. So ing or n, ing. So he's doing it for you. He's doing it now for you. He's doing it. I have a hard time saying these things, okay? This is something not in my language, not in my vernacular language, not in my vocabulary. For me to say it, I have to think about it. So I really do understand when you have a problem with it, okay? He's doing it now for you. But to be honest, you cannot say, nobody who would say, she's doing it now for ya. That's how it's gonna go. So if you don't like it, don't say, I'm sorry, but that's how they normally speak in this kind of English. Ya means you. And I have a hard time saying it because that's not necessarily proper English, a little bit slangish. You either have to do the full thing, all slang, or, so we've addressed that. And if you watch a lot of movies and then you hear how are you doing, then you know what they mean. They just mean how are you doing. So that's just the first part. The idea I want you to understand. The apostrophe indicates that something is missing. There's some information that is not there, and we understand that, and we know that that's the case, okay? So we go a little bit further from this grammar slang kind of thing to a contraction that is actually used in the written English on the regular basis, and not just missing letters, but there's another element to it. Let's have a look at it. Contractions. In a contraction, there are two words that are together. Not just letters are missing. In this case, the G is missing, but they're actually taking two letters and putting them together like a cake. You have eggs, you have water, you have flour. When you contract them, you make a cake. They no longer exist in separate things, but they exist together. In the contraction, there are two words joined together, and the new word is also missing some letters. There are two things going on. Examples of these are, aren't you hot in this sweater? The first thing you have to go, I noticed there is a missing letter and two words are together, and it's not a G missing here, but it's not a present continuous verb anymore. It's the verb to be plus the negation, like are not. Negation meaning negative. So we can see here are not. I can say, are you not hot in this sweater? Because we don't want to speak like that. It takes too much brain power. Aren't you hot in the sweater? Okay. Next, I'd like some coffee, please. Here we can see it is a word, and would is contracted just to the letter D. So most of the word is not here. It's just the letter D. I'd like some coffee, please. Or I could say, I would like some coffee, please. Formal. Next contraction. They've gone home now, which is really, they have gone home now. So we're using a present perfect form. We've contracted it into one word, they've, instead of two words. Instead of they have, we say they've, okay? And finally, our final example here is will be back later. And that I promise you for sure. Now, will, now don't say will. Sometimes I notice it's difficult for ESL students to pronounce, and they're like, will. They're trying to say both words. No, in all these cases, do not try to say both words. The new contraction takes a life of its own and has its own sound, so it keeps the same meaning as the two separate ones. So you might say, hey, Ms. J, thanks for explaining this, but why do people do this? Well, to be quite honest with you, we say these words all the time, 50, 100 times a day, and really, I would like a cup of coffee, please. We will be sitting at the table over there. And what's the next one? Are you not going to bring this? It takes way too long. And just like in every language in the universe, when something is said very regularly, we find a shortcut or easier way of saying it. Just comes out of the mouth easier, and easier, much more easier understood by the person who speaks. Okay? So that's why the contractions. We will. We will. Much easier to say. The meaning is maintained. Cool? Alright. So I gave you some examples, and I hope it helps you with the case of the missing letters.